My girlfriend changed our engagement party into my brother's birthday bash. She even made him wear my suit and hold her waist at the party. She explained, "We can get engaged anytime, but Felix's birthday is only once a year." But when guests teased them about being a perfect match, Carrie just smiled silently. Later, she reset that day's party and guests knelt 99 times to propose to me. "Edward, let's get married. Okay?" "No, not okay." Felix's birthday party was a grand event. Friends and family from both sides were there. He gave a speech on stage, his voice choking up at times. Carrie stood next to him, gazing at him tenderly, wiping away his tears to comfort him. The scene didn't look like an ordinary birthday party. It looked more like a wedding ceremony with the bride and groom giving speeches. "Edward, what's going on? Isn't today your engagement with Carrie?" my friend Mike asked, barging into my dance studio after watching the live stream. "And isn't this the hotel setup you showed me for your engagement?" I had just finished dancing and was adjusting in front of the mirror. Without turning around, I said calmly, "The engagement has been canceled." "Why?" Mike was shocked. He quickly realized from my indifferent and calm expression, "It won't be because of Felix, right?" "Yes," I replied. 3 months ago, Felix came back from studying abroad. He came in just as Carrie and I were planning our engagement. I had chosen the hotel, the date, and planned everything. But just a week ago, Felix said his birthday was coming up. He wanted to have a birthday party to catch up with old friends. He hadn't celebrated at home for 6 years, so my parents agreed enthusiastically. They wanted it grand and luxurious. But with just a week to go until my engagement, it seemed impossible to get everything ready. Felix frowned, and my parents seemed to realize the time crunch. They exchanged looks. "What should we do?" Felix proposed. "Didn't Edward choose a hotel? I saw the arrangement sent to him today. I really like it. How about using that instead?" My parents were initially hesitant since it was meant for my engagement with Carrie. But Felix pleaded with them, saying, "I'm just having a birthday. It won't affect anything. Plus, using Edward's arrangement saves time and effort for everyone." Felix has always been the favorite. His slightest unhappiness pained my parents. So when Felix mentioned their hard work, they were touched and agreed, forgetting all about my months of planning. Mike was speechless after hearing my story. "This is crazy. Competing for your engagement venue? It's not like he's dying next year or something." Mike was angry for me. "What about Carrie? Did she agree to this too?" "Carrie?" I was momentarily confused thinking about her. Mike gave me a doubtful look. "This is your engagement. Doesn't it matter more than Felix's birthday?" "You saw it yourself," I replied. Mike was silent again, looking at me with a mix of worry and pity. I expected this outcome from the start. Luckily, I had already been heartbroken long enough. At this point, I could afford to give Mike a reassuring smile. Surprisingly, my smile left Mike more unsure. "It's fine, it's fine. Eventually, she'll make it up to you with a perfect engagement." He tried to comfort me clumsily. In the past, I might have accepted his words. But now, I thought, in the future, there probably won't be a future for me and Carrie. Mike didn't know, but I was aware Felix was like a prince in a novel. Everyone put him first. Carrie was no exception. She knew I put so much effort into this, eagerly looking forward to it. Yet, just because of Felix, she, along with my parents, persuaded me. I didn't keep quiet. We argued about it. But Carrie said, "We can get engaged anytime, but Felix's birthday is only once a year. He hasn't been home in 5 years. Can't we at least give him one birthday?" It's not that he can't have a birthday. But why on our engagement day? Why at the venue I chose? Why? I had so many whys in my heart. But they all stopped when I saw Carrie's displeased frown. Carrie is different with Felix. She always agreed to his requests. In high school, it was his homework, tutoring sessions, or weekend company. I thought she'd know where to draw the line, but she agreed just like that. I left after the dance studio lights were turned off. Felix's party was still on. So when I got there were still lots of people. Felix was chatting and laughing with them, holding a champagne glass. I recognized the crowd. A few were even our high school classmates. But compared to Carrie and Felix, I only knew them. Felix had grown more handsome over the years. "Molly, you're teasing me," he said shyly. "I'm serious. You and Carrie together are such a sight," Molly teased. Felix gave a shy smile just as Carrie walked over. "What are you guys talking about?" Carrie asked. Felix linked his arm with Carrie's, smiling innocently. "Perfect timing. Carrie, they were saying we two look great together." Molly waved. "I'm not the only one saying it. When you were speaking earlier, several people around me said so. Talking about you two being a perfect match, like a storybook couple." "Huh?" Molly said, mimicking the tone of someone else. That got everyone around us laughing. Felix even had to cover his mouth. Carrie was standing there, not laughing as hard, but there was a softness in her eyes. I caught this scene and, yeah, can't say it didn't hit me a bit. But then, Edward showed up. Someone spotted me and shouted my name, drawing Carrie's and everyone else's attention. I had to snap back to reality. Just as I looked up, I locked eyes with Carrie. She seemed surprised to see me. Her gentle look instantly turned to shock. She instinctively let go of Felix's hand and walked over to me. "What are you doing here?" she asked, like I shouldn't be here. I stared at Carrie, and she noticed her question wasn't quite right. She took my hand and said gently, "I mean, why didn't you call me to pick you up?" Never thought I'd hear a polite line like that from Carrie. If she really cared, why do this after the fact? It's too much trouble for you. I can just take a cab. Carrie smiled a bit. "Just picking you up? It's no trouble. Forget it." She didn't seem to catch the distance in my words. I stopped talking. Felix walked over. "You're here." Unlike Carrie, who looked flustered, Felix seemed totally at ease. I immediately noticed the suit he was wearing. It was the one I planned to wear for my engagement toast. Didn't expect to see it on him. Noticing my gaze, Felix smirked. "Nice suit." "Huh?" I could see a hint of challenge and pride in his eyes. Before I could speak, Carrie chimed in. "It's because Felix's suit wasn't ready in time, so don't misunderstand." "Won't misunderstand. Won't be needed anyway," I replied with a smile. "It looks good, suits you. I've been busy with rehearsals and hadn't had time to get you a gift. Consider it yours." Felix looked a bit stunned that I wasn't angry. Carrie didn't notice and seemed relieved. "Edward, we'll get a better one made later," she added. I wasn't taking this seriously, but Felix's face shifted. I pulled my hand away from Carrie. "I'm gonna go see Mom and Dad. I'll come with you." My parents were in the living room, flipping through photos from the evening. "Oh, these are really well done. Yeah, I really like this one." My mom pointed to a group picture. There were 4 people: Carrie, Felix, and my parents. She looked at it with satisfaction. "See, Felix and Carrie, they make such a great pair." Hearing that, my dad squinted and took a closer look. "Yeah, but Carrie and Edward are a couple." "So what? If Felix hadn't gone abroad, Edward wouldn't even be in the picture." My mom replied with a playful look at my dad. He didn't argue, just nodded along. Carrie was meant for Felix really, my mom mused. If only she were with Felix, it'd be perfect. Those words made me pause. Carrie was behind me, hearing it all. Her face changed and she shot me a quick glance before speaking up loudly. "Hey, Edward's back." My parents turned around, startled. "Oh, Edward, what are you doing here?" They seemed to guess that I'd heard the conversation just now, looking visibly awkward. "Isn't it Felix's birthday? Thought I'd come by." "Oh," my mom mumbled, avoiding eye contact. That wrapped it up. We weren't close growing up, so there wasn't much to say, especially after overhearing that leaving was the best choice. I didn't stay long, just said goodbye and left. Carrie grabbed my hand before I walked out. "I'll go with you," she said, sounding a bit embarrassed. She was about to leave with me when Felix called her again. "Carrie, leaving already? But we haven't cut the cake yet." He frowned slightly, acting disappointed. "You ordered it, won't you stay until we cut the cake?" Carrie's hand holding mine tensed up. "Edward?" Seeing Carrie's dilemma, Felix finally addressed me. "You just got here. Stay for the cake." "No, you guys go ahead." At this point, I could see Carrie's true feelings. I made an excuse about being tired from rehearsals and left. Before I exited, I looked back one last time. I could see a crowd gathered around the table on the lawn. Carrie and Felix were in the center, cutting the big cake together. This scene wasn't exactly familiar, but not strange either. My mom got one thing right tonight. If Felix hadn't left the country, there would never have been a me and Carrie. I like Carrie, but my mom always hoped Carrie would like Felix, because she wanted Felix to have all the best things in the world. I remember as a kid, my mom got 2 limited edition action figures. Logically, one for each of us. But Felix wanted them both. She clutched the boxes, crying loudly. "No, they're mine. I want both." My mom, feeling bad, picked her up from the floor. Okay, they're all Felix's. Felix, cheered up, hugged her neck. "Mom, I love you the most. Mommy loves Felix the most too, and wants you to have everything good in the world." It was just a small incident, but it stuck with me. Growing up, my mom even delayed my schooling by a year over worries about Felix being on her own. "You need to take good care of your little brother, you know?" She'd been saying that to me from kindergarten all the way through high school. Then Carrie came into the picture, and the phrase switched up. "Please look after our Felix, will you?" Carrie had been the golden child all her life, great looks, smart, from a well-off family. My mom had this thing where she'd say, "You gotta snag a great person when you find one." Since Carrie was amazing, my mom was all about getting Felix set up early on. As soon as the college entrance exams were over and my mom found out what Carrie's choice was, she changed both mine and Felix's college preferences to match Carrie's. She figured I'd keep looking out for Felix, and Felix might grow alongside Carrie. But then Felix didn't get in anywhere. He didn't want to go somewhere else and decided to retake the year. That year, he did a complete 180 and wanted to study abroad. My parents were totally against it at first. But Felix pulled the same stunts and eventually, they caved and used the family resources to send him overseas. I ended up going to college on my own. My mom felt a bit sorry about it at first. Oh well, maybe Felix and Carrie just weren't meant to be. But when she saw Carrie and me together, her expression got all cloudy. It was like I took something that was supposed to be Felix's. Carrie showed up late at night. I was still awake, messing around on my tablet when she came in. She looked a bit surprised seeing me up. "You're back?" I powered off my tablet and asked. She nodded like she had something to say. I nudged her. "Go shower first. Keep it down, I need to rest." After her shower, she crawled into bed, wrapping her warm arm around my waist. Her voice sounded kinda heavy with emotion. "Edward," she started, hesitating. I waited quietly. "Don't mind what happened tonight," she finally said in a low voice. "What happened?" I asked calmly. "Was it that our engagement party turned into Felix's birthday bash? That Felix wore my engagement outfit? Or that she remembered Felix's party but forgot to pick me up from the dance studio? Or was it what my parents had said? If it's about the engagement-turned-birthday thing, we've been over this," I reminded her. Carrie opened her mouth but then noticed something off about my mood. But my reaction left her clueless. If I had thrown a fit or broken down crying, she could have handled it. But not this calm acceptance. It was what she wanted, yet it made her feel frustrated and confused inside. "I know you're upset, Edward. I promise you a bigger, grander wedding, better than anyone's," Carrie said after some thought, holding me tighter. She wanted me to respond. "Get some sleep," I told her instead. Out of guilt or to make things right, Carrie started sending flowers to the academy the next day. People who didn't know the story gasped and laughed. Only Mike was unimpressed. Where was this energy before? He grumbled. It seemed like he was madder at Carrie than I was, which amused and exasperated me. Just then, the dean's assistant stopped by with some application forms. Mike noticed and asked, "What are those?" "Application forms," I replied. "Applications? For where?" "The academy's got an overseas study slot." I told the dean I'm interested. Mike was shocked, grabbing the forms. "It's a 3-year program. Does Carrie know?" "She will soon." I hadn't planned on hiding my study plans from Carrie. With the forms here, it was time to talk to her. I drove straight to Carrie's office. The receptionist knew me and directly directed me to the CEO's elevator. As the door opened, I heard Felix's voice. "Carrie, the view from here's unreal." Felix marveled. looking out the massive window, taking in the cityscape view. Carrie followed with a nurturing smile. Looking for a job? I do need a secretary. For real? How about me? Their casual banter was interrupted when Carrie's secretary noticed me. Boss, she called out. Carrie and Felix turned to see me. Their smiles shifted ever so slightly. Felix walked over from Carrie's side. You're here. Carrie was just showing me around since I was bored. Felix explained before I could say anything. Carrie came closer, taking my hand, asking why I didn't text her I'd be coming. Sorry, I'll do that from now on. It used to be I didn't need to. Carrie frowned a bit, like she wanted to say something. But Felix chimed in, I'm hungry, cutting off what Carrie wanted to say. Carrie glanced at me. Have you eaten? Let's get food. Carrie drove out from the parking basement. As soon as the car stopped, Felix hopped out and opened the passenger seat door. Go ahead, hop in, showing how used to this she was. During the meal, Felix wouldn't stop yapping, mostly directing it at Carrie. Carrie listened attentively, occasionally putting food on my plate. I want some too, Felix suddenly demanded. Carrie, you're so good to your brother. I wish I could find a girlfriend as awesome as you. I paused mid-bite. Carrie didn't catch on and just chuckled. Eat your food, she said, and grabbed some food for Felix. Suddenly, I lost my appetite. I put down my chopsticks and asked Carrie, Are you free this afternoon? I need to talk to you about something. What is it? Carrie tilted her head, then remembered something. I have a meeting this afternoon. Okay, we'll talk tonight then. But when evening came, Carrie told me she had to leave on a business trip for a week. I wouldn't mind the business trip. She just took Felix along. Carrie booked a flight for the night. It was around 11 p.m. when they landed. Before sleeping, I scrolled through Felix's social media. First day as a personal assistant, traveling with the boss, he posted with a photo of the hotel's window view. The location was exactly where Carrie said her trip was. And those two shadows reflected in the glass. My mom liked the post and even commented, Good luck, sweetie. A surge of anger shot through me. I immediately called Carrie. Carrie. Edward. It's me. Felix's voice was as oily as a snake. A chill ran down my spine. Where's Carrie? She's in the shower. Wanna leave a message? His voice was all innocent. But like a fuse to a firecracker, it would only take a spark to set me off. No, give the phone to Carrie. Edward. Why are you so guarded with me? Carrie told me everything about you too. Felix pretended to be upset. Enough. I'm sick of this fake act. Give the phone to Carrie. Couldn't help but shout. There was a moment of silence. Then Carrie's voice came up. Edward, what's wrong? Did you take Felix on the business trip? I tried to suppress my anger. She paused for a second and explained. Felix wanted to come along, and I just happened to have this trip. Such a lame excuse. My temples throbbed. I thought I could hold back my feelings, but there's always something that makes me angrier. Carrie didn't hear me and cautiously asked, Edward, if I asked you to send Felix back now, would you? What? Carrie didn't get my point. Before I could finish, she interrupted me, sounding panicked. Carrie, are you going somewhere with Felix? She must have set down the phone, but I could hear footsteps and some scuffling. Through the signal, Felix's small, pitiful voice came through. Edward must have misunderstood something. I'll just go explore on my own. After he said that, Carrie shouted after him, her voice getting louder. A few seconds later, Carrie came back on the phone and explained. Felix ran out. He doesn't know this place, and it's late. I need to find him first. We'll talk when I return. The call ended. Carrie never called back after that. But Felix's social updates resumed. One day, Felix posted 5 updates from different locations. Every image had Carrie in them somehow. I thought about Carrie and me. We've dated for years, yet only had a few regular date spots. Now, she was willing to go anywhere with Felix in just a few days. The love and absence of it were painfully obvious. The trip was supposed to be a week, but Carrie came back after 10 days. During that time, my application got approved. I was set to leave for a study abroad program in about 2 weeks. I packed for the trip, dragging my suitcase to the door. That's when I saw Carrie and Felix get out of the car, both smiling and chatting, still high on their trip. Carrie noticed me and stopped smiling. She hurried over. "Edward, where are you going?" "Back to school." I replied. "I'm studying abroad, and there's stuff to sort out at the university. Staying at the school will be more convenient." Before I could explain more, Felix chimed in. "Edward, you're still mad, aren't you? That's why you're moving to school?" He frowned innocently. Carrie seemed to realize that too. She looked down at me. "Didn't you know I was coming back today?" Her tone and expression weren't friendly anymore, like when she spoke to Felix. I noticed the impatience in her tone, and I met her gaze. "I didn't know. You didn't tell me." Carrie stiffened, probably remembering our last talk before she chased after Felix. She looked uneasy and embarrassed but tried to hide it with a stern expression. "Edward, stop. I'll explain everything at home. Okay?" I gently pushed her hand away from my luggage. "I'm not causing a scene. I really just have business at school." Carrie didn't believe me. She stared as I left. Once I handled business at school, a few days went by. Mike asked, "Did you tell Carrie about studying abroad?" Only then did I remember. I forgot about it. But thankfully it wasn't too late. I went home and Carrie wasn't there. I started packing up my stuff. Halfway through, Carrie came in. She looked a bit surprised, then relaxed and smiled. I was about to talk to her, but her expression quickly turned cold, and she silently went into the study. Wait, is she sulking? I couldn't help but find it funny. The next day, I stopped Carrie before she went to work. "Carrie, I need to talk to you. Can you spare 20 minutes? Carrie gave me a quick glance, slightly pursing her lips. "I need to talk to you too." She checked the time. "How about I pick you up after work tonight?" "Okay." So I waited until evening. In the meantime, I had nearly finished packing my stuff at home. While I was taking a break, I came across a post from Felix. It was at a jewelry store. He had taken a picture of a diamond ring. It was so shiny and would definitely look great on someone's hand. The post was liked by my mom and Carrie, so I gave it a like too. That evening, Carrie came back. "Let's go out for dinner," she said. "All right. Wear the shirt you gave me for my birthday. It's nice." Is it necessary to have such flair? I was a bit puzzled. But then again, Carrie and I have been dating for years. A proper breakup seemed necessary. Sure. While looking in the mirror, I unintentionally caught sight of Carrie's gentle, smiling eyes. Maybe the closet light was too bright, it made her eyes seem bright too. "Edward, you're really something," Carrie said as she leaned into me. How should I put it? Carrie seemed different today. Time wasn't pressing, but Carrie wasn't rushing to take me to the restaurant. Instead, she took me to our school. "Edward, do you remember? We bumped into each other right there." Carrie pointed at a cherry blossom tree lining the campus path. It wasn't even cherry blossom season, but the tree was still lush. She was talking about the time we first met again in college after the entrance exams. She had asked Edward, "Why are you here alone?" I was too embarrassed to tell her my parents were busy with Felix and his studies. Later, Carrie helped me move my luggage into the dorm. As a thank you, I took her out to eat. We studied different majors, and our departments were on opposite sides of the campus. Yet I kept running into her at mealtimes. Nobody could dislike Carrie. She was talented, warm and gentle, like a spring breeze, yet elegant and somewhat distant. To me, she didn't seem like she was meant for me. Every encounter made me happy and sad, until Felix went to study abroad. Carrie came to me, "Edward, do you think we can be together?" That was the first time I let myself be brave with my feelings. Although in the end, it didn't end well. I remember, and over there, Carrie was talking a lot today. Though curious, I patiently waited her out. It was only polite. But Carrie took me all over the campus and still hadn't finished her story. Until we reached the entrance of my department. "Edward, I would wait here for you after your classes." I thought Carrie was about to start again. Unexpectedly, she just stopped there. Later, Carrie took me to a restaurant for dinner. Her mood visibly lifted. Nearby, someone played the violin. The candlelight flickered warmly across faces and eyes. Walking into the restaurant, I finally sensed something off. Everything looked luxurious and set up for a surprise. Sure enough, midway through the violin piece, a group of waiters came in with huge bouquets. Behind them were Carrie's friends, bustling in. They surrounded Carrie and me. Party poppers went off, and colorful streamers floated down over my head. Carrie knelt before me. "Edward, will you marry me?" I stood there, stunned by the unexpected turn of events. Everyone cheered around us, making jokes about my lack of reaction. "He's in shock," they teased. Carrie was in front of me, looking a bit tired yet confident. Encouraged by the crowd, she took my hand. Just as the ring was about to touch my finger, I reacted and pulled my hand away. A heavy silence followed. Everyone stared, confused by my action. What's going on? Didn't Edward always want to marry Carrie? Yeah, what's he doing, saying no? Carrie's smile froze. "Edward, you?" I finally gathered my thoughts and understood why Carrie seemed odd today. She'd been planning this proposal. The words she wanted to say were about this. I assumed. I frowned. "Carrie, stand up for a moment and let them go. I need to talk to you." Carrie seemed lost, but the others could sense the tension. They exchanged wary glances and slowly dispersed, leaving an emptier and slightly somber atmosphere behind. I might have hurt her with my reaction just now. Carrie's gaze was now uncertain and a bit shaky. "Carrie, I applied for an overseas study slot at the academy." I seized this chance to tell her. When Carrie heard it, she appeared momentarily confused. "When?" "Half a month ago. I went to your office to tell you, but you were out on a business trip." "How long?" 3 years. After my reply, Carrie sighed in relief. "So it's because of this that you're not accepting my proposal, right?" "Not exactly," Carrie muttered to herself. 3 years isn't that long. Even if it's long distance, I could try. "Carrie, I don't plan on having a long-distance relationship." I cut her off. Her face registered shock. I looked at her, my gaze serious and firm. "We should break up." This decision wasn't sudden. Ever since we started planning for our engagement, all the unexpected events seemed to be preventing it. Sometimes things are right in front of you, within reach, and then suddenly they're gone. That just means they weren't meant to be yours. Like parental love or Carrie's favoritism. By now, I've finally woken up to reality. I got a call from Felix while I was moving the last box from Carrie's place. "Mom wants you home for dinner." "Oh, and remember to bring Carrie," Felix said before hanging up. When I arrived home, I rang the doorbell. I was greeted by Felix's cheerful face when the door opened. "Carrie." Felix's smile vanished instantly when he saw I was alone. "Why are you by yourself?" "Where's Carrie?" "She's not coming," I replied. Felix rolled his eyes at me. He shot me a brief look before heading inside and shouting, "Edward's back." My mom was in the living room and looked up at me, asking the same question as Felix. This time, Felix answered for me. "Carrie didn't come." My mom looked disappointed. I was supposed to be a part of this family, yet compared to Carrie, I wasn't as welcome. At the dinner table, I sat alone on one side while Felix and Mom chatted happily. Their laughter and conversations filled the air. "By the way, big brother, I left a bunch of photos at Carrie's place. Can you get them for me next time?" Felix asked all of a sudden, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "You should ask her yourself," I replied. Mom glanced at me too. "It's no big deal, you can just tell her." "I can't," I said flatly, not missing the disapproving look Mom shot me. "Carrie and I broke up. Honestly, if I didn't feel the need to tell them, I wouldn't have come today." After I spoke, an awkward silence settled between us. Felix's eyes glimmered with a brief sense of triumph. Mom's expression turned awkward, not exactly sure what she felt. All she managed was a dry, "Why did you break up out of nowhere?" No hint of regret, just a shallow pretense. This triggered a nauseating sensation within me. I looked her right in the eye unfazed. "Isn't this what you wanted? With us broken up, Felix can finally replace me." Her face turned red, then white. She didn't expect the usually obedient me to speak so sharply. As if her authority was challenged, she started, "Edward, what do you mean? How could you say I wanted this?" I engaged in the biggest argument with my mom in 20 years. She laid bare her intense distaste and disdain for me. "You were never as sweet as your brother. Without me raising you, do you think you would have this life now?" Loved ones know where it hurts most. The breakup? Clearly your fault. Carrie was great. What more could you want? You can't match up to your brother, and now you can't even keep a girlfriend happy. Even though I anticipated this blow-up. Ripping down that facade of peace revealed pure ugliness underneath. I fought to suppress the heartache, but the moisture blurred my eyes. You're right, I can't compare to Felix. So starting today, I won't come back. Act like I never existed. Hiding my sorrow, I stated this calmly. Mom froze. Seeing me rise to leave, her voice hitched in panic. Edward, where will you go? I'm moving abroad. Most likely, even after studies, I won't come back. During Felix's years overseas, she always felt lonely. I remember when Felix came back. She and Dad, tears in their eyes, said, "You've been gone 5 or 6 years, leaving us all alone, no company." They were alone? I came home every vacation and holiday. So what was my company worth? A phone call from Felix miles away garnered more praise. Mom's face went pale. Oh, come on. These are small things, and you held onto them this long? Small things? Hundreds of tiny things built up over more than 2 decades? Just small stuff? I never understood why my parents couldn't love me as much. I am their firstborn, yet I feel like I exist for Felix's benefit. Felix was supposed to have the best of everything. They indulged him, forgave him, granted his every wish. Even the dance classes I take now were initially passed on to me by Felix when he didn't want to attend. I've persisted all these years, becoming the top dance student in the academy. Yet they've never seen a single performance. I'm their child too. They know how to love Felix. Why not me? Some thoughts can't be dwelled upon. The more you ponder, the more it stings. At some point, tears completely covered my face. But I've said all I need to say, and I don't plan to discuss this with them again. I collected my things, ready to leave. Mom tried to call my name but couldn't say it. Felix comforted her. Don't worry, Mom. Edward's always been selfish, you know that. I'm here for you. Hearing this, I paused, then turned back. I walked directly to Felix. He looked up at me. I raised my hand and delivered 2 solid slaps to his face. Felix clutched his cheek, stunned. What the hell, man? Felix, if you don't know basic manners, I don't mind teaching you. I glared silently at Felix. He wanted to argue back, but I cut him off. I've got screenshots of everything you posted. If you deny any of it, I'm cool with sharing it online as a PDF and letting people judge for themselves. All those years of education totally wasted. Felix's face flushed and paled. He glared but held back his anger. I didn't always dislike Felix. When we were younger, he'd sweetly call me big brother and ask for hugs. When did it start to change? I don't know. The news about Carrie and I breaking up spread quickly. Carrie's friends came to talk me out of it. I shut them all down. If you think it's no big deal, I'll just send today's chat logs to your girlfriend. They went silent. See? It doesn't hurt until the knife is in your own flesh. 2 days later, it was time to leave. Mike came to see me off. His eyes were red, clearly reluctant, but he never thought about stopping me. Take care over there. I will, I promised him. I caught sight of a familiar black car parked by the roadside. The license plate was familiar too. Mike noticed it and was visibly annoyed with Carrie. When he saw her getting out of the car and walking towards me, he rolled his eyes. Carrie stood in front of me. She looked disheveled and worn out. Her eyes were dark-circled. Even her gaze was dull. Carrie asked what time my flight was. 2 in the afternoon. I can take you. No need, the academy arranged a bus. Carrie blinked a few times. Edward, I'm sorry. After thinking it over for a long time, that's all she could manage to say in a trembling voice. She'd said it countless times by now. That night, Carrie wondered why I suggested breaking up. She guessed at a lot of reasons. Was it because of the engagement or because I took Felix on a trip? She asked cautiously. Seeing my silence, she hurried to assure me. Edward, if that's it, I promise it won't happen again. I looked at her and finally asked the question that had been bugging me. Carrie, I've always wanted to ask. Did you get with me because of Felix? Otherwise, it's hard to explain why when Felix returned, Carrie was so indulgent and concerned for him. Her face turned pale. She opened her mouth but was at a loss for words. But I already had my answer from her reaction. I told her, "That's why we're breaking up. When we were kids, I was Felix's sidekick. When I grew up, I became his substitute. Do you think I'm someone that cheap? I'm sorry." That day, Carrie also said she was sorry. But her explanations drowned out after that slap. She owed me that. I was always upfront in this relationship. She let me down. Once I was abroad, my study journey went smoothly, though the language barrier was tough at first. But the people with me were really friendly and kind. I deleted all my contacts from home, except for Mike. The first year I was away, I still heard about Carrie from Mike. He said Carrie was always posting online about proposing. None of them knew who Edward was, probably just thought it was some rich guy showing off. It caught some clueless netizens' attention, sparking some shipping. Some even started daily check-ins. Did Carrie propose today? Seriously, who does she think she is? Just creating drama for herself. Doesn't she know how many kids see this and get the wrong idea? Mike was super disapproving of her act. Then some mysterious person revealed the truth about Carrie's actions. Turns out, today's netizens were pretty savvy. What's this? Thought it was a love story, but it's just a player regretting her choices. Come on, leave the guy alone. Why should he forgive you just because you want him to? You should have thought of this before. Some even dug up Felix. To this day, my mom still tries to set up Felix and Carrie. Seeing the fanbase's anger spill over to Felix, my mom even made her own account to shift all the blame onto me. By the time Mike told me all this, months had passed. I learned everything in hindsight. The last time Mike mentioned them was in early December. "Edward, did you hear about Carrie and your brother's car accident?" Through Mike's recount, I found out it was because of what my mom posted online. Things heated up. Public anger escalated. Felix's family was so harassed online they couldn't leave the house. Felix had planned to ask Carrie for help, but she rejected him. They were arguing while driving. That's what happened, whichever way you look at it. One dead, one injured. Felix died, Carrie lost a leg. After hearing this, I felt uneasy for a long while. 3 months later, I got a call from home. "Edward, it's Mom. Can you come home and see me?" Her voice was old and pleading. I paused for a moment. "I'm not coming back. When you're old, I'll send you money for support." A tearful regret echoed from the other end. I hung up without a second thought.